All right, we're live.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It is Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. I now call to order the 2108 regular city meeting of the City of College Place at 7:01 p.m. is what I have. Sherry, will you please take roll call?
Mayor Hernandez,
Present.
Councilmember Jessup,
Present.
Councilmember Espinoza,
Present.
Councilmember Peterson. Not present. Councilmember Sherman,
Present.
Councilmember Boyle,
Present.
and Councilmembers Williams and Cleveland have asked to be excused.
Okay, great.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America,
The republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. It's now time for public comment. Sherry, did anyone submit a comment in advance?
No, I did not receive any.
Okay. If there's anyone in person or in virtual attendance that would like to speak, please raise your hand. Step up to the podium.
All right.
Welcome, and your name and your address, please.
My name is Elizabeth Brochu. I live at 883 Mockingbird Drive in College Place, at Country Estates Manufactured Housing Community, which
Welcome,
I'm sure
Elizabeth.
you're familiar with. Good evening, Mayor Hernandez and city council members. I can't see them, but I guess they're there.
They're there, they can see you.
1 year ago tomorrow, city council members voted unanimously to restore mobile home park zoning citywide, thereby preserving and protecting the land beneath the homes of hundreds of senior citizens at Country Estates and Sunsetville manufactured housing communities. With land values at record highs, residents of both parks were facing a realistic possibility of homelessness should park owners opt to sell the land beneath our homes. Last year, because of COVID, we were not able to attend the meetings in person. However, I want to come here tonight to say that while there may be times when some of the actions you undertake may seem mundane with no observable consequence, your decision to restore mobile home park zoning in College Place had a significant impact on the lives of hundreds of citizens, and I wanted to make you aware that it has not and will not be forgotten. Citizens can sometimes feel forgotten and invisible to city officials. Senior citizens, and particularly those of us residing in manufactured home parks, can feel insignificant. To the contrary, my first contact was with City Administrator Mike Rizzatello. I hope I pronounced that
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah.
Who responded to my email on the very day that I contacted him. Moreover, it was clear that I had the full support of Mayor Hernandez from the very outset. Thank you for not only listening to our concerns, but truly hearing us. Thank you to the city council members who voted unanimously to restore mobile home park zoning. Thank you to the Director of Community Development, John Rickard, and the planning commissioners who recommended to the council that the zoning be reinstated. And thank you to City Attorney Caldwell for including an opportunity to purchase in the city code. Finally, shortly after your vote, I was contacted by residents of two of Walla Walla's largest parks for my advice and support. A moratorium is currently in place, and Walla Walla now seems poised to follow your lead. Unquestionably, you blazed a trail, and in so doing, residents of 8 Walla Walla parks may soon enjoy the peace of mind that we now have in College Place. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you again for your courage and your foresight, and I wish you a very happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Thank you. Is there anyone in attending virtually?
There is no one in the attendees list.
Okay, great. Well, then we'll move on. We'll move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the agenda for tonight, November 22nd, 2022, the council minutes from November 8th, 2022, and excusing the absences of Council Member Williams and Council Member Cleveland. Are there any items that any council member would like removed from the consent agenda at this time? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 That means none opposed. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, we have one presentation tonight. We have a guest, Rebecca Francic from Basin Disposal, and she will be giving an update. Welcome, Rebecca.
Rebecca, you're on mute.
Oops.
Just so it doesn't hear in.
There we go. Sorry. I had sent a presentation. Are you able to see that on your end, or should I plug it in from my end?
You can share your screen if you want, or I can open it and you can tell me when to. move
Do
the
you
slide.
have it up? If you don't, I'll just share mine. Here we go. Well, first of all, council, thank you for your indulgence here. I'm Rebecca Francic, and I am your council, or not, sorry, I'm not your council member, I'm your Basin disposal representative. I used to be a council member in Pasco, so sometimes I get confused about who I am. Let me share my screen here. And view. I do not see that I have the ability to share. Oh, here we go. Can you see it now? I'm seeing more than meetings instead of the PowerPoint.
We can see it.
You can? Oh, great. Okay. So there's a couple of things that I want to talk to you about today, and I do not know what this is. Give subtitles a try. I am not turning those on. There we go. You're just going to have to listen to me. Sorry. Are you seeing the full screen? Or are you seeing a slide on the side?
We see the full screen. Well,
Perfect. That's exactly what I want you to see. So I had intended to be there tonight in person. Pasco to the north is having a little bit of an ice storm. So when I couldn't walk to my car from my driveway, I decided to take advantage of your Zoom session. Thank you so much. Basin provides you 3 services: residential, unlimited, commercial, and industrial. We used to provide recycling, but we'll get to that later because it has been canceled. Before we begin tonight's discussion, I just want to draw your attention to this graph on the left where it says average annual inflation. Those of you that have a little gray hair like me have lived through 18% inflation, but if you are under 60, you haven't, because we have since 1983, we've lived in this very low inflationary environment. In fact, the average annual inflation or consumer price index between 1983 and 2020 was 2.63. And then you see right here at 2021, it became 4.7. And in the 10 months between January and October, it was 8.5. So this means that your dollar today is buying 8.3% less than it did last year. This inflationary environment is the condition that section 6.3.1 of your contract was written for, and it's why Basin is here tonight asking for a weighted rate adjustment of 5.3%. I want to just be clear that when we ask for this increase, we are just trying to make up for the loss in the purchasing power of dollars. It does not increase our profit margin at all. And we use a common index, which you can see down here is the bls.gov.data for Western urban size class BC cities. And that's consistent. We've used that for many, many years. So what does this mean to you personally? Well, College Place has 2 price adjustments this year. You have Basin's request for a CPI, and the Sudbury landfill has increased their tip fees by 3.02%. So you have a 6 point, inflation was 8.5. By statute, we only, or by our contract, we only take 80% of the CPI because we have a long-term contract with you. And so we're asking for a 6.8% consumer price index increase. And we're asking for a straight pass through of the 3.02% Sudbury tip fee increase. We don't add any overhead to that. We just pass it directly on to you, the consumer. So this means that if you have a 96-gallon residential cart, it'll be $1.24 more per month. If you have a 32-gallon residential, and your 32 gallons, we have moved out of those for the most part. So only people that were grandfathered in have 32-gallon residential carts. Those will increase by 80 cents. If you're a 64-gallon residential senior or low income, it will increase by $1.05. And if you have a 4-yard container, it will increase by 15.93. Now, some people ask me, well, it seems like, that's an awful lot for a senior low income rate. And what I can tell you is we take the current rate and we multiply it by 5.3 straight across. So everybody's feeling the same percentage of increase. Were there any questions about that before we go on? Then let me go back to the recycling market, because you used to have recycling, but in March of 2018, you canceled it because there was a market collapse. I'm sure you've all heard about China closing their doors to recycling coming in from the United States. And we have been monitoring commodities ever since. And the picture is not really that great. You can see the blue line up at the top, which is cardboard, has been pretty strong for a long time. In August 17, it was 103.75 per ton. And then it, kind of just settled down here. It was still making $10 to $20 a ton. It went up a little bit in 2021. This is the Amazon effect, or the COVID effect, with people having things sent to their homes. There was a lot of cardboard and there was a need for cardboard to ship things out. But in September of 2022, you can see that the price is $0 for cardboard right now. This is commingled recycling. So you've got glass, aluminum, tin cans, and paper. And you can see it's kind of the same story. In August of 17, it was at negative 27.55. It went lower, it came up close to $0, and now it's $190.22 to dump and process recycling. So if you want to recycle, it's a pretty expensive proposition. Now you look at this reality, and then you look at House Bill 1799, which passed last spring, and it says that by 2025, we are going to rescue 20% of all edible food and redistribute it to people. And we will divert 75% of all organic materials that are now going to landfills out of them. The reason for this is great. Organic material creates a lot of methane gas. Methane gas is one of the strongest greenhouse gases. They really feel that that's one of the biggest bangs for the buck, is to get methane gas out of landfills. But we're going to need a lot of infrastructure investment to make this happen. And people are under the impression that it's going to be cheap, and it's not, because especially with organic materials, we're going to need to pick those up at your curbside. You'll need a separate truck, you'll need different staff to do it, and you will need another cart. So you've got more material, more equipment, more diesel to come and pick it up, but it will take it out of the landfill. So I want you to be aware of what that landscape is doing. Some people have asked if College Place, which is less than 25,000 people, would be able to get a deferment or be out of House Bill 1799. But you are in the county of Walla Walla, which has a population that qualifies, and your sister city, which is incorporated, is already doing curbside. So that drags you in by default. Now, we believe in Basin that 2025 is a pretty ambitious goal. When they set this out, they really didn't think about any of the costs of infrastructure. So this probably will slip, but we at Basin are planning to try to meet those goals by 2025 at this point in time. You should also know that Walla Walla just commissioned a glass recycling study. And they are currently preparing a community survey asking if their residents want to pay an additional $1.75 to up to $3.50 a month to recycle glass. If the community says yes, Basin would be buying separate equipment that they could keep the glass separate and then pick up commingled on the other side of the truck. They would be bringing it back to Pasco. They would be putting it in semis. When they have a semi that's full, they would ship it to either Seattle or Portland. So that is an opportunity for College Place to possibly jump on to glass recycling in the future. I'll let you know how that goes. I know that Robert McAndrews serves on the SWAC committee with me. And so we just continue to monitor that. So closing actions, we Basin are going to continue to monitor legislative environment, anything related to recycling. We think that we need to advocate that when markets for commodities actually don't exist, we have a solid core of citizens who believe that everything has to be recycled. And that is a wonderful goal. But if you cannot take plastic number 7 and recycle it, who wants to store it in their garage? Because if you keep stacking it and stacking it and stacking it, eventually you've got to do something with it. So we're hoping to influence legislation to allow when markets don't exist, we can landfill it. And when they do, we can take them to the appropriate location. And then we will continue to work with your SWAC to try to make sure that we are abiding by all the legislation, giving you the most cost-efficient service possible and meeting your needs. Oh, that's a different slide. Let me go back. This was a question that came up earlier. So do you have any questions that I can answer?
I have a question.
And I can't tell whose hands up. So just go ahead and shout it out.
Councilmember Espinoza. Hi, Rebecca. I have a question for you.
Sure.
I remember a few years ago, I used to pay $15 for my garbage bill. And then over the years, it's just been going up consistently. And it's now 23 or close to 25. And there will be another price increase. Inflation has been around the 3% mark over the previous years. Last couple of years have been extraordinary because of COVID. So my question to you is, if the inflation manages to come down, will you guys reevaluate your pricing and pass those cost savings back to the consumer as things stabilize and prices lower, hopefully?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because your contract is one of our newer contracts. And so I don't know if you've noticed, but at the bottom of your bill, maybe I will go forward on this. On the bottom of your bill, you should be seeing a fuel surcharge that is being shown. And that is something that we check every 2 months. It was pretty high in August and September. It went down in October, November, and it went back up this month. So every 2 months we share that. And what we have done with your contract is we have pulled fuel out of the CPI. The CPI, even though it has been low in the 2 and 3% range, you have to remember that's a change over year every year. So it went up 2% last year, 3% the next year, 4% the year, in 2021, and this year it went up 8%. So we are glad to pass those on when we can. We are in an environment that we've never been in, and that is when we order trucks, we aren't even given a quoted price. We're just told it's ready, come pick it up. So a garbage truck is around $640,000, and we don't even know what they're going to charge them when they say, and it'll now be $700,000, and that's a hypothetical number. But when they say now it'll be $700,000, we have to decide, do we take it because there are no other trucks out there, or do we limp along a little longer? I will tell you that our goal is to turn our fleet over every in thirds. So every third of 15 years. So every 5 years, we turn over a third of our fleet. We are not doing that right now. And eventually, because we're trying to hold on to what we've got, our inventory, but eventually that will catch up with us and we'll have to make up for equipment that is falling behind. Does that answer your question?
It does, and you know, for the other side of the coin, I know that you know, the price of labor has gone up too. So your operating costs are higher. Your assets, your trucks, you know, they're higher as well. So hopefully we will see some improvement around the CPI, and we can see some of those savings reflected for our citizens here in College Place.
I hope so too. I have to tell you, nothing in my personal life that I'm buying now is cheaper than what I used to buy, other than maybe my cell phone plan, but my cell phone is more expensive. So we are definitely a company that is responsive to market prices. We have a very low profit. Oh, something I can tell you, we have a very low profit margin, and any profit we do make is regulated by the Utility and Transportation Commission. So if ever somebody says, hey, that Basin Group is charging way too much, you can just march right over to the UTC and they'll check out our books and look things up. So everything is regulated. So that's the one piece of comfort I could offer.
Okay. Can you share what your profit margin is?
I cannot, because it is a competitive and private business, but I will tell you, I was quite shocked at how low it was. So what I will tell you is, you know, grocery stores are another business that has very low profit. They're like 2 or 3%. And the reason is because they make their money on frequent turnover. So every time you buy lettuce, which has to be turned over every 2 weeks, we're in a similar boat because we make our money every time we tip one of your garbage cans.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Councilmember Jessup has a question.
Hi, Rebecca. This is Paul Jessup. Thanks again for the presentation as well. I also had a couple of questions, if I may, and forgive my ignorance. But if I heard that correctly, the response to adjustment to current market, which is inflation, if I heard that correctly, your business practice is simply to reduce the 66 cents on this particular bill, which I think is just a percent or two in terms of helping with that market adjustment or inflation, so on and so forth. Also, with Espinosa and the fact that the bills are continuing to go up, which I'm assuming, so forgive me for assuming, but I'm assuming with the just normal bills going up, that's also adjustments to the rising cost of equipment and that kind of thing. If I understand this correctly, the 6.8% is a specific adjustment for the modern or current day inflation rate. So if the pricing, so the pricing has gone up continually, which I assume is in response to what you had mentioned with price of the fleet and so on and so forth. But if I heard this again, the 6.8% is different than the fleet adjustment. So my specific question is, next year, who knows what happens, but next year it goes back down to 3%. Are we going to come back to the table and reduce that pricing by 5% due to the current inflation?
I think I might have left you with the wrong impression. So what I was trying to say, so garbage is divided into 2 sections. You have the service component, and then you have the whole transportation component. So we will always adjust our rates based on this formula. You can see 6.3.1. It'll always be 80% of what the consumer price index is. So for instance, I can't remember which year it was, but it was actually a 0.4. We didn't raise our rates that year. There were a number of years where we didn't raise our rates at all. When we started raising them was when that graph started shooting north. And the fuel is separate. So the CPI covers wages and equipment and insurance and all of that. And then the fuel is what goes up and down every 2 months. And eventually, if we get back to whatever your contracted price was, and I don't have that written down, it'll come off. And that's happened in Pasco twice.
So there's multi-factor in adjustments and such in the rates.
Correct.
Awesome, thank you.
Rebecca, this is Mayor Hernandez. I have a question that I'm often asked by some of our senior citizens. We have a number of single person households. And I hear some feedback that the 96 gallon is way excessive of what they actually use or even need. And they feel a little, pressured and bullied into paying for this can that they're not even getting close to halfway filling. And I've been asked if there's any opportunity for single households, as well as senior citizens, to get a smaller, to prove they're a single household and to get a smaller can at a different cost. I understand the contract with College Places as on a whole, but these specific individuals as single households will never meet that capacity. And they feel a little disenfranchised, I guess, for lack of a better word, for being a single household in this calculations of our business agreement.
So I will tell you, I was hired by Basin about 1.5 years ago. So I have learned so much from this because I have had some of those same questions. What you have to remember is it costs the same amount to come pick up a 10-gallon can as it does to pick up a 96-gallon can as it does a 32-gallon can. The driver works for the same rate. The truck burns the same amount of fuel. It takes the same amount of time to run down the road. So the only savings that a person who had a single household with a smaller can would receive would actually be perhaps in tonnage. And that amount is such a small percentage. I don't think your residents would find that they saved as much, and it would be much more complicated to, I'm not saying we couldn't do it. I'm just saying it would be a lot more complicated. The other thing that Basin does, which is unique in the garbage industry, is we offer unlimited service. So in the days when you have yard waste or you want to put out, you're cleaning house and you decide you're getting rid of the couch and you're getting rid of the dishwasher that doesn't work, you can put all of those items out. And so it all kind of averages out. We have a fabulous finance person and he has these spreadsheets that are amazing to look at, but they have a very close feeling for what any of our customers are putting out. So I would say that we could look at that, but I suspect that your smaller households would not recognize the savings that they were hoping to recognize.
Understood. Thank you. Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, I'm guessing also that I arrived late here at the end of this conversation, but I'm guessing you're looking at a pool of expense. And if you were to carve out 20% of that and charge less, you would have then for the remaining amount would have to increase the rates to make up the difference, correct?
That is correct.
So
And that's what happens with your low income as well. I mean, we're happy to mimic whatever it is that College Place has in place. But a number of councils have asked me, what about low income people? And I think it's wonderful that we offer support to low income people, but those are rates that have to be made up by somebody else. And frequently they get relief in their PUD bills, their utility tax and their property tax and the garbage tax. So while I'm willing to, as your contractor, we're certainly willing to do that. You need to also be aware that somebody else is subsidizing the cost.
A follow-up question, kind of I guess a corollary is that the retired individuals, or as people get along in the years, I think it might be interesting, even a small decrease in the cost, but the standard is a 96 gallon. Those are hard to manhandle for quite a segment of our population. Just the act of getting that out to the street sometimes is overwhelming. The weight, the size, all the rest of it. And so I don't know. I'm not saying we're going to decide anything here, but even a smaller size to be more easily taken out to the street, even if it's only perhaps a small small reduction, not a proportional deduction, anyway.
The other thing you have to remember though, on the other side of it, and I've heard this also from some of our senior citizens who are a little bit smaller in stature, that those are a little hard to wrestle. But there's also that uniformity of having a truck that picks them up and they're all the same. So it's faster and more efficient than having drivers hop out and have to pick up a separate size. All pros and cons.
Mr. Rizzatello?
Yeah, and then two questions for you, Rebecca. One of them was the email I forwarded you earlier today. One of our constituents had a concern as far as like turning in bills in the mail, and then because of weather related things that come in late. So that's question one. And then the question number two is, I know when we redid the contract a couple of years ago, we did put in some language that as the fees over at Sudbury increase, which is the Walla Walla landfill, that essentially there would be circuit breaker language where you all would take a look at, frankly, that Arlington landfill. It said other landfills, but that is the landfill for the Northwest. And if it was cheaper, maybe opt it that way. I was wondering if you have in fact have been checking those price comparisons, because I do get that we want to support local, but at a certain point, if it's going to break our back, that is another option.
I have not specifically looked at that, but I certainly will tomorrow, because we do have other options. You are correct. So we'll check and see what that price differential is. As far as the bill, can you see this copy of it's a what do you call it? A surrogate bill on the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
So the individual who texted you had called us, and we were so glad for his input, because it gave us a chance to go back to the person who does our billing and say, hey, you do know that when we send these to you on the 1st and we send our files electronically, they have to be turned around and mailed within 48 hours. And so we were able to get a little bit of movement there. They weren't giving us the service that we had thought we had contracted for. Unfortunately, what they do though is they mail them, and those bills then go to Spokane, and then they have to come back. So we're talking realistically, the bills that we send you on the 1st, you're probably not getting until somewhere between the 7th and the 14th of the month. So the individual who said he was a little concerned about this is absolutely correct, because if you're getting it on the 7th or the 14th and it's due by the 15th, that's not a whole lot of time. I would like to say the bill is not delinquent until the 30th of the month, so that does give you a 14-day window. But also bills can be paid. You can mail us a direct payment. You can e-pay through your bank. You can usually your bills are pretty much standard. I know our bank, we just have them automatically send a check at the same time every year. You can pay it through Basin's website portal. They have a portal where you can just go onto your computer and you can click it and pay it that way. You can pay it by phone. You can also, because the individual who contacted Mike and myself said, sometimes when the weather's bad, I don't want to have to drive all the way over to the Walla Walla office. And I absolutely get that. So you can just pick up the phone and call us. You should know that we are looking to transfer all of our billing to e-billing, so that when we mail it on the 1st, you should be getting it on the 1st. So that's probably 6 months out, but it is something that we're doing because we've heard from a number of customers that this is a problem, and we are working to fix it.
Thanks.
So, Mike, it goes out on the 1st and it's due on the 15th.
It's
So-
due. Let's see,
When's it
it's
due?
due on the 15th, but it isn't delinquent until the 30th.
You say delinquent, you're saying the scarlet letter does not go out until after the 30th, or?
Correct. And there's there's a fee if you are late. That
Okay.
wouldn't happen until after the 30th.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, doesn't look like it, Rebecca. Thank you.
Well, I I would just like to say how much I appreciate being able to serve your community. Someday I hope to meet you actually in person. I've enjoyed working with your staff very much, and I look forward to seeing you on one of the SWACs or at future meetings.
You then. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, let's take a look at where we're at. All right, public hearings. We have two public hearings tonight. First is the 2023-2028 capital facilities plan by Mr. Rizzatello.
Okay, thank you. I'm not gonna go over that at length because it'll put everyone asleep because we reiterate that
Thank you, Mike.
several times over the last months here. But the general gist of this is that every year we do this, and the first year is more concrete. The next 5 years are more for planning purposes. Cliff's notes of the matter is that over 53% of these projects are dependent upon the receipt of grants and then also development community helping out. So I mean, what really we're leveraging a lot of the taxes, utility rates and so forth to bring in money from the outside to make this stuff a reality. Also within the summary documents, what you will notice relative to years in past, next year, a lot of it is very engineering heavy. So really the construction projects that will be going on is pretty much a wastewater treatment plant and then finally dealing with Lions Park. But a lot of the other stuff is going to be developing the engineering to bring it to future in the subsequent years. For example, the Majanier Road, Lift Station 5, repaving Birch over here. Other projects is basically the public works yard finally fixing that because we've gone over that litany of times. But I mean, those are converted chicken coops from the 40s and it hasn't really been touched. So trying to get a couple more years out of that facility and then really doing that. So the totality of all of the projects, I mean, it's just shy of about 40 million. If you go out into the 6-year plan and horizon, it's about 128 million. Main things behind that is because we have some life cycle projects in there where as we're developing the plans, the council and community will have to make decision points on whether or not to pursue them, such as the whole police station discussion we've had in the past, other things like that. So that is in there. Other things that are in there for planning purposes, which we've alluded to a little bit, but in basically in the next half of the year, that consultant we hired to develop the tax increment financing plan is going to put all that together, and then you'll have decision point on that, really getting that stuff going so we can get the businesses up in here. So the downtown parking lots, the gap on Majanier Road because of inflation, the inflation on Majanier blew a giant hole in the earmark for that one. So we're definitely going to need a backup on that. So really that's what all this is doing. So first year concrete, next 5 years are planning purposes. The one project I will note that could change a little bit, and if it does, we will come to you, is lift station number 5. That's the coffee can wastewater lift station. So we end up getting funded by Public Works Trust Fund. It sounds like Department of Ecology through the wastewater treatment plant funding is also going to give us some grant money for additional projects. And what has been found in the engineering of lift station 5 is that the pipeline going to it has issues as well. So it would make more sense to fix that while we have everything ripped up than to hope it doesn't have a backup and then have to rip everything up again. So lift station number 5 does have the potential to go higher than what's in the CFP, but there's ecology money that will offset that. So that's the only one that's a little bit of unknown at this time, because we're going to Department of Ecology to find out essentially what are the limits of that grant funding, because of the way the pipe is laid. Honestly, it would make more sense to do some curb and gutter and sidewalk in there, so that way we're in and out and just done with it out there. But we need some approvals for that, so I don't have that answered for you all today, although we tried to get it. So that's the only unknown one, but everything else in there is pretty concrete and changed from the litany of times we've gone over it.
And the documents that are included in our packet, they haven't changed from the last time we reviewed them?
The only ones that change is that lift station
That lift
number
station
five,
number five,
and
okay.
that is in red type, and then only other item besides that is some additional engineering costs for the future Sally, the Sally Port conversion and so forth. Because we're trying to get plans done for the Sally Port, but then B, in the future, over time, as staffing grows, having additional workspace in here. Because if you look at the original architectural plans for this building back in the 90s, the footprint of it was actually supposed to go out to the sidewalk, and then because of funding shortfalls, it was just like parked on the side. But that is how it was designed. So getting that in place, so just as money and staffing needs are there, we have a plan to move forward, but those are the only key changes. Everything else has remained static.
Okay, all right, thank you. Are there any questions for Mark, for Mike regarding, that's where I was going, Mike, regarding the 2022-2028 capital facilities plan? Councilmember Peterson?
Mike, maybe you mentioned it, the renovation of this
Yeah,
room.
Yeah.
What's the time? What are the thoughts on that?
well, that's saying yes, so there's some key timelines on that coming up. So the last council meeting that'll be held in here for a while will be the one in December. So at that point in time, essentially you have to give over custody of the room to the contractor so they can work their magic. So after December 13th, that's what's gonna happen. And then we'll be in the future meetings, because we have multi-purpose rooms, as you know, over in the fire department. So I would suspect this will be ready for prime time by the summer. So it has actually moved forward, which is a relief.
So the funding for this, remind me again, came from,
The American Rescue Plan.
I think that would be really, and I'm sure the mayor and you would probably discuss this, that'd be probably a great idea that as this begins, that is communicated
Yeah.
over and over again. That this is not being funded by increases in our disposal service garbage pickup, but American Rescue, yeah. Tongue in cheek completely, but I'm just saying that the accuracy of where the
Yeah.
funding for this is where it's coming from.
Good point.
Well, yes, we will. That'll be in the budget flyer, because as you
Yeah.
know, after a budget gets passed, there is a budget summary flyer
Oh,
gets
yeah.
mailed out with
Yeah.
the utility bills
Yeah.
and posted on the site. We will do that, and it will have the information, because as y'all know, when you passed the plan for the American Rescue Plan Act, how that was all split apart. That really was funding projects that frankly had no traction to them prior
Yeah.
to that. Because I mean, good luck getting grant money and go fix a council chambers,
yeah,
that
yeah.
doesn't exist, so.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Any questions from any members online? No? All right. Thank you, Mike. Let's see, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Sherry, did anyone submit a comment in advance?
No, I did not receive one.
Okay, is there anyone in virtual attendance?
We have one attendee.
Okay, so if there's anyone in virtual attendance who would like to speak, please raise your hand now. Or *9 to raise your hand if you're connected by phone. All right. Is there any additional discussion by council? If not, is there a motion? To close the hearing, sorry. there a motion to close the hearing?
So,
Second.
All right, any additional discussion? All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
I,
Aye.
All right.
Means none opposed, the ayes have it, and the hearing is closed. The second public hearing is on the fiscal year 2023 final budget by Mr. Carlton.
Thank you, Mayor. So here we are presenting another iteration of the budget. There's been a few changes. I'll attempt to bring up and share my screen if I can. Can everybody see that?
No,
No,
we just see your,
we see a directory.
yeah, your folder directory.
Oh, I show it on my screen. So you're not seeing the presentation?
No,
no.
Well, then Sherry, if you can bring up the
Did
presentation.
you share your live screen or did you just share that window?
It says I'm screen sharing.
You're probably just sharing that one window. It doesn't follow unless you're in a live, like the specific window that you share.
All right, let me try this again. Thanks.
Stay, but, you know, somebody else. So they go. These days are behind us.
Do you want?
Oh, there you go, there, it's there.
There you go. Learn something new every day.
mostly what you're doing wrong.
So we'll move through this rather quickly. You've seen this. This is the fifth presentation. Very few changes at this point. Again, the same key assumptions. I won't run through them in detail, but definitely a focus on inflationary impacts. And I wanted just to let everybody know that we really do a zero-based budget every year. So we do annualize the current year. So if we have current inflationary impacts, we do take that into account in our annualization. And then we use that annualization to forecast or budget for the next year. So I can't say that we've absorbed an 8.5% increase in costs, but through our process, we're confident that the numbers that we present reflect inflationary costs. Just a couple minor changes from the last presentation. We updated the payroll costs with the new PD union contract, and there was a couple. We included the fire department volunteer benefits for the life flight. Also, as Mike mentioned in his presentation, we have the design work for the City Hall building for next year, which was originally included in 2024. So we moved that amount back into 2023 because that's when we're anticipating spending the design money. Excuse me. Here's where we stand right now with the budget. Beginning balance of $18.5 million, anticipated revenues of $61.7 million, expenditures at $62.7, with an ending fund balance of just under $17.5 million. That's a drawdown for the entire budget of just over $1 million. And again, here's the trend in the fund balances over the years. And you can see that our fund balance is at a healthy balance, even though it's coming down $1 million. So we feel confident that financially we're solid. Here is all the groupings of all of our funds by different sections, and we've gone through this each time. I'll just hit the ones that really have the deficit balances and give a quick recap on those. You can see in the current expense, the very first line item, we're having a deficit of $1.3 million next year. And again, that's attributed to the ARPA spending. That money was in that beginning fund balance, approximately $1.8 million that we anticipate spending partially in 2023 and again in 2024. Those funds are required to be spent, I believe, by the end of 2024. So we still may have some carryover into 2024. The next group showing a deficit is down in the capital reserve funds, specifically Fund 306, the last one in that grouping. And that's a drawdown of approximately $1.1 million. And again, that's directly attributable to Lions Park project. We've been accumulating that opening fund balance of $1.4 million over the last 3 or 4 years in anticipation of that project. So, very explainable why we have a drawdown in that fund. You go down into the street funds and a small deficit there, nothing too material, just under $5,000. The next section is the water utility, and you can see there's a small drawdown in relation to the amount of funds they have in that utility of $4.5 million. We're expecting a drawdown at 294. That's attributable to our share of costs on projects that aren't grant funded. And there's a number of projects going forward next year in the water utility. The next section is the wastewater utility. You can see it showing a healthy surplus for next year carrying forward. But then again, we do have the wastewater treatment plant project in there, and you can see in the revenues and expenditures, $28 million of expenditures in the wastewater utility expected for next year, and that ties in exactly to the CFP Mike just presented. So a big year for wastewater utility. And although they are showing a deficit, but some of those costs I'm sure will carry over into 2024. The next section is the stormwater utility, and you can see there they are also showing a healthy surplus of $807,000. We do have some projects going forward next year in the stormwater utility, and I'm sure that balance will carry forward into 2024, help us with any of our required amount that's not grant funded. The next section is the balance of the funds. 440 is the new ambulance utility, and you can see it's operating at a deficit, and that's related to us only charging 2/3 of the total amount of the ambulance utility fees in 2023 and carrying forward a balance of $268,000 into 2024. And then you have the equipment rental and replacement fund having a slight drawdown there due to our purchasing of equipment and maintaining the shop. And then the last fund is our flexible benefits, our only fiduciary fund. As far as our reserve contingencies go, we're in good shape in all of our funds. Our current expense reserve fund, which was set up in 2019, is showing a balance of $522,000 at the end of 2023. Our reserve contingency is 10% of current expense budgeted revenue. And you can see our target is 840 and we're slightly below that. But that remind you that this is just a target in that particular fund. So we're slowly moving to get that, that balance up. You can see the other funds are operating in excess of their targets. So I think we're in good shape. The one change that we did make from the last is in the, it was in the wastewater debt service fund. It had it was below its target. We made the correction. That is funded through the operating fund for the wastewater. And we moved the additional funds in there to cover that target and make sure it meets its goal. So it looks like we're in good shape in all of our reserve targets. I've gone through these in the last few presentations and they haven't changed materially, so I'll just run through them quickly. You can see in our current expense that ties out to that deficit that we already talked about, and the $1.8 million in ARPA carryover that is going to be expended in the next year or two. We also have a payroll increase that's included in the budget at 4% for non-represented. And again, we are putting through a 0% property tax increase that was submitted to the county at the on the 15th of November. Our streets fund is showing that small deficit. You can see that our expenditures in capital are significant next year for the streets, and slightly, our revenues don't equal our expenditures, but we still have a healthy ending fund balance. You can see in the operating side, definitely our revenues don't meet our expenditures in the streets. As you may remember, that fund is funded through current expense. So it's sort of its standalone, but definitely current expense funds our streets, as there's not a lot of revenue generating items for repairing our roads, besides the grants that Mike gets for us. Here's a summary of the water fund and how they're operating. Again, you can see that from an operating perspective, they are operating at a small surplus. And overall, you can see a total deficit of $444,000, mostly attributable to our share of expenditures on capital projects. You can see that's at $344,000 that we have to fund through the water utility. The debt on capital projects is close to $1 million per year for the water fund. That directly relates to our 2 well projects, which cost approximately $4 million a piece. So a lot of that was funded through Department of Health and not all grant. So we do have low interest loans, but definitely we'll have to pay that back over the next 20 years. And that's our water funds. The next is the wastewater group. You can see a healthy deficit or a healthy surplus. We are meeting our operating costs, and the wastewater treatment plant is the big project in there, budgeted at $26 million. We did include the entire amount of the project in capital this year, but as you know, those expenditures will probably take place over the next few years. So, but majority of that is grant funded. So our revenues will be down associated to the amount of expenditure. So we might not get to that level in 2023. And the support for that that debt level is built into the utility rate increases. We started those increases a couple years ago to anticipate these expenditures. So they'll continue on over the next few years. Here's our stormwater fund. You can see that we are operating at a surplus, and we do have a large number of capital projects. And the revenue for those projects, it looks a little deceiving because it shows that we're getting more revenue than our expenditures for our capital, but that's in relation to carryover projects that we submit them late in the year and aren't funded until the next year. And as a cash basis, you have to record that revenue in the time you receive it. We did have a 0% increase last year, but the rate model shows a 3% increase is necessary. Excuse me. The last group we're showing is our real estate excise tax, or REIT funds. And there you can see the big capital component is Lions Park project. And that carryover we had $1.4 million of carryover in the REIT fund, and we anticipate it's approximately, directly for REIT 2 is half that operating revenue amount. It's about $222,000. It's split evenly between the two REIT accounts. As far as staffing goes in the budget, no change from the prior presentation, although we do have in the wage increases, the police did settle their contract for 3 years, and next year is in at 5%. There was some other items included in there, so there was a slight cost increase in the budget this go around for police as they added some incentive amounts for them. Mike, if you want to elaborate on the items, but.
So that union contract, just because we're doing some minor cleanup, but that was voted on by membership. It'll be going forward for your consideration the next meeting, but definitely relative to what the market is, we definitely are on as solid footing as we could while trying to keep it as reasonable as possible for the tax payers here. Where we settled that was basically for the next 3 years, 544, and then there's some minor enhancements outside of that that frankly are par for the course. If you were to go arbitration and get thrown in there anyway. So you will see that the next meeting, it was a fair contract for all parties involved.
Great.
And you can see fire is included at 4%. It's the third year of their 3-year contract. The public employees union at 4%, non-union exempt at 4%. And non-exempt also at 4%. The contract employees, their contracts state CPIW as a yearly increase, and September to September of 2022 was 8.5%. All those increases are included in the current budget. There is a couple positions we're recommending for next year. One is a facilities maintenance worker that will take over looking after the facilities and help relieve some of the work pressure on John's group. A stormwater maintenance 2 worker, our mental health co-responder, which is grant funded for the next 2 years, and 1 additional police officer. As far as health insurance increases go, you can see the amounts there. The law, no increase, the health going up 4.8%. You can see for all other employees, health went up 4.5% with no increases in the other areas. And we are recommending in this budget that the city pay life flight for the employees as a benefits. And you can see the total amount there, just shy of $6,000. Here's our same schedule. There's been no change to this. Our recommended increases in the utility rates And that'll come through, I'm not sure if it's in the meeting in December. I think it usually goes through the first meeting in January to approve the rates for the year. We are showing 3.7% increase in total water, 3.6 for sewer, 2.1% for stormwater, and we do have our ambulance utility going in there at 2/3 of the amount approved by council. The full rate will go into effect in January 2024. So definitely the rates are definitely a lot lower than 8.7% inflation this year. So, but we feel confident that it's sufficient to hold our reserves adequate. The next steps we'll continue to review as necessary. Unless something major happens, I don't see any changes before the final action item at the first meeting in December. I know you've seen this a number of times. Any questions?
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Carlton this time around? Mr. Peterson?
On the ambulance and emergency staffing, have we hired those positions been filled or?
So 3 of the 4 positions have been filled. We're going to be starting a new list because they've essentially exhausted the civil service list. So they need to repopulate a new list, and they're hiring the 4th one. I would just, as an anecdote, over last year, they're actually 9% higher again with the ambulance runs this year to date than last year.
Wow.
And Chief Warner told me an interesting statistic that I was just a bit stunned by. So City of Pullman, they do 3,000 runs a year, and Pullman has a population of 35,000 people. We're 9,900 people, and he said year to date, we're already at 2,100 calls.
How many does Pullman do?
3,000.
Oh, my goodness.
And they're a completely career department. We're a combination. So that's pretty alarming when you compare the 2 side by side.
We're definitely keeping our team busy.
Yeah.
Well, we're not. The city's
Yeah.
keeping them busy.
Age of residents and everything.
Right.
And that additional position is included in the budget for 2023.
I was just curious where we were at on.
Yeah.
Any questions from council members online? All right. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right. So at this time, I will open the public hearing. Sherry, did anyone submit a comment in advance?
I did not receive any comment.
Do we still have 1 person on virtual attendance?
Yes.
Okay, so if anyone in virtual attendance would like to speak, please raise your hand now or press *9 to raise your hand if you're connected by phone. All right, is there any additional discussion by council? And if not, is there a motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. Any additional discussion? All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Right. That means none opposed. The ayes have it and the hearing is closed. Next, our action items. There are several action items on the agenda tonight. The first one is the 2023-2028 capital facilities plan by Mr. Rizzatello that he just presented on prior to Mr. Carlton.
Yep. So yeah, we went over it a litany of times. This time it's just shy of 40 million. Lions Park Lift Station 500 treatment plant are the primary construction projects. There's several engineering prep projects next year, and the majority of things are financed by grants and such.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Any questions from council members at this time? Is there any additional discussion? If not, is there a motion on this ordinance? Is that what we're working on, capital facilities on this ordinance?
I move to adopt ordinance 22-019, which authorizes the fiscal year 2023 to 2028 capital facility plan.
Councilmember Boyle, I'll second.
Great, first and second, any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. The ayes have it, the motion is passed. The next item is a 2023 to 2028 equipment replacement plan. Mr. Rivatello presented as well.
Okay, thank you. Similar concept except with vehicles and equipment. First year's more concrete. Other years are for planning purposes relative to years past. Luckily, the 6-year aggregate is falling on this one because of necessary investments made over the last several fiscal years. So fire department, the brush truck, and we've been trying to get one for a while, just the supply chain is killing us. And then turnouts, police department, continuing the leasing program. It's been going on really good. Also the taser program. And then getting a replacement speed reader board. Park department, substantial lawnmower. We could get away with a cheaper one, but then we'd have to hire more staff people, which costs way more than getting better equipment. So thus that's why there's a higher dollar lawnmower there. Stormwater, sewer jet truck, and then the box fan, that is there. And the Jether truck, that's ecology money paying for the lion's share of that. Streets department, just standard fare with the utility truck and so forth. Wastewater continuing that lease agreement that's been working well and allowing us to get out fairly substantial increases if we would have get our own equipment. And then water department utility truck, which next year's equipment costs 1.8 million across all departments. And a 6-year total is just shy of 4.7. So that is the ER&R plan.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments from council members? All right, if there's none, is there a motion on this ordinance?
Councilmember Jessup, I'll motion to adopt ordinance 22-020, which authorizes the fiscal year 2023 to 2028 equipment replacement plan.
Second.
Great. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That means there's none opposed. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next is a 2023 to 2028 information technology plan, Mr. Rizzatello.
Okay, thank you. Similar concept except with information technology. And with this one, you'll definitely see a bump up in the expenditure, essentially the first year, because we're having to do that Tyler implementation. So it's around like $500,000 in total, but that's it, software, computers, just looking at everything across the organization in general. Tyler is only a segment of that. But then in subsequent years, it drops down. And then the beauty of that is that as right now, a lot of our software is segmented across various vendors, and we're having to pay fees all over the place. And we're actually going to end up saving quite a bit of cost once we get past this initial hump of getting it all installed. So we have that, but then beyond that, it's really paying the maintenance costs on everything and continuing that. And then in future years with the police department, continuing to put in the security cameras, because that's been a major help in the areas that they have been installed in. But that's the general gist of the IT plan. So this coming fiscal year, 580,000, and then the totality of it over the next 6 years is 2.4 million.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments from council members? All right, if there's none, is there a motion on this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 22-021, which enacts the fiscal year 2023 to 2028 information technology plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Did we hear all five? Okay, that means none opposed. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. The last action item is resolution of support for application into the Federal Department of Transportation Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Program. And Mr. Vitale will discuss that.
Okay, thank you. This is resolution of support to allow us to turn in application materials to this. This is technical assistance. They're going to name about 30 communities and regions across the country get this. And then if you get this, they'll assign staff from Federal Department of Transportation, and then essentially you get priority status on the federal grants related to transportation. So Blue Zones, as well as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, have signed on as partners to us. This low-income census block groups are allowing us to qualify for this, as well as some of the income survey data that the university helped us collect a couple of weeks ago. That was a major boon for this. So I will need to turn this thing in tomorrow. So please pass it.
Let's think about it a
Yeah.
little longer, shall we? Any questions from council members? All right, if none, is there a motion? Is there a motion on this resolution? Does Mike have to beg?
I'll motion to adopt resolution number 22-085, which supports the city's application into the Federal Department of Transportation Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Program.
Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Is there any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 That means there's none opposed. The ayes have it. The motion is passed. All right, Mike, you got your marching orders for tomorrow.
You close the door and. Yeah.
All right, we have one administrative report tonight. The Lodging Tax and Advisory Commission funding recommendations, and Ms. St. Clair is going to report on that.
Yes. This was presented at the Lodging Tax Advisory Commission on November 3rd. And every year, the city puts out an application for lodging tax funds, and they're reviewed by the Lodging Tax Advisory Commission. This year, the city received 4 different applications. One from the city of College Place for the Freedom Festival in the amount of $14,500 for marketing, swag, and live entertainment. One from the Powerhouse Theater of Walla Walla in the amount of $1,000 for marketing / promotion. One from Fort Walla Walla Museum in the amount of $4,500 for personnel and programming. And one from United Way of the Blue Mountains in the amount of $7,923 for marketing and promotion, travel, and then food / beverage and materials. So this is the budget report for the Fund 130 Hotel Motel Tax. The beginning balance in 22 was 36,000. Revenues year to date are 26,491. Estimated additional 2022 revenues are 8,830. And then the total estimated 2022 revenues are 71,385. There was 11,500 in year-to-date expenditures. The estimated fund balance is 59,833. Subtracting the 20% reserve minimum, that leaves the estimated 2023 available funds at 47,906.94. There was a request for proposals in the Walla Union Bulletin on August 14th and August 28th. And this is additional information from all of the applications that were received.
And then just as a primer for those new on council, because lodging tax funds are governed in a really weird way from other funds. So when this recommendation from the LTAC comes to you all, the council can't tweak like the allocation that the LTAC recommended. So the vote can either be that like you're gonna be accepting their slated recommendation, or if like the majority of council had a problem with, then it could be remanded back to the LTAC to deliberate again. But yeah, council can't like actually like tweak with the recommendation. So just for those new on council, because like with everything else, you have the ability to make tweaks if you so choose, but lodging tax is a little bizarre that way.
And the Lodging Tax Advisory Commission reviewed and recommended approval of all 4 applications in the amounts requested.
Find it interesting that we get more in the lodging tax than we do in property tax. Because in property tax, we get about 16,000 a year, right?
Well, I mean, that's total across the whole.
Right, but I
Yeah,
thought from what I just saw that,
Yeah.
that we get,
It was a 1% increase, it was 16.
Oh.
that we were expecting
Yeah.
about 30 some estimated revenue in 2022.
Well, yeah, the thing you have to remember why it's climbing up so much is because Walla Walla did that ban on vacation rentals. So any of them grandfathered in were okay, but past that you were out of luck.
Okay. so
And
that's fine.
many can argue both sides of the, because there's benefits and drawbacks in any decision, but essentially because of what happened over there, there's been a lot of vacation rental activity
Yeah.
over here, which does have issues on the housing stack, but that's also made our LTAC balance shoot up quite a bit too. So,
Oh, the wonderful world of conundrums.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Sherry. Do we have any questions? Really, it's an administrative report, but is there any questions from council members? All right. So there are 2 informational reports in your packet for you to review. If you have any questions, please refer to the staff for that. We do not have an executive session tonight. So if there's no other business, well, actually, is there any other business for good of the order? Anyone online? Nope. All right. Sorry, I'm just seeing here what this says. Washington City's Insurance Authority provides liability insurance for the city of College Place.
Oh, okay, so that one, so, yeah, so council workshop, that'll basically be the first, Tuesday in December. We'll have the guy, from the Washington Insurance Authority over here, they have, Rob Roscoe, and he just is gonna explain like council do's and don'ts and stuff, cause we haven't had that in a number of years, so,
Oh, good. Try to keep us out of trouble.
yep.
All right. All right, so please plan on attending this meeting so that we can all hear and learn this valuable information.
Will there be
how-
snacks?
Not at your house.
I was gonna say probably not.
No, I should, well, there would
That's
be.
why we're at our house.
Yeah, there,
Right here. Can we all come there?
I'm not hearing no. Yeah, Sean,
Right.
come on over.
Bye. Feel free to treat.
Okay, so
All
we're
right.
not doing snacks at workshops any longer. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. It's just too much work for staff to get all that arranged on busy days. All right. On that note, do we have a motion to conclude? Oh,
I'll make a motion to conclude the meeting.
is there a second?
Second.
All right, so if there's no objection, the meeting is concluded at, what do I see, 8:36, 8:35?
8:26.
8:26, I swear I can tell time. 8:26 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.